My name is Annette van Heerden. I'm your tutor for Diploma in Junior Primary Education, Religious, Moral and Life Skills Education, number 1, semester 1. This is a content-based session and this handles on the examinations of 2019. Welcome to this very important module. In this unit, you will study the content religious and relate it to moral values. You will understand why RME is included in the junior primary phase as well as the syllabus aims for the phase. You will note how RME is related to other subjects in cross-curricular issues. In this presentation, I will teach the following. I will advise you on how to study. I will discuss the exam paper and the technical aspects thereof. For example, how to complete the cover page and the rules of the examination hall. I will advise you on how to answer your paper correctly. I will teach you how to use the verbs in your question to receive optimum marks. I will narrow down and summarize some important parts of your study guide and show you how questions can be asked on these parts, as well as how and when you can obtain help from me. Suggestions on how to study. You cannot pass this subject if you do not know the content of your study guide. You cannot start studying one day before the examination. After receiving your study guide, immediately summarize the content. Read through your summary at least once a week. About 2 months before your examination, you can do it earlier also, start studying. Do not try to study the whole content in one day, but divide it into portions that you can handle. Then re-study the content on a regular basis to ensure that you remember it. Do not try to write RMLS11 and 12 in the same examination. You get confused with the two study guides, and then you write the semester 2's answers or facts into the examination paper of semester 1. You will not receive marks there. Rather, pay enough attention to one at a time in order to pass your examination. Study the work that was summarized in this content-based session and use the references given to find the answers. Now, very, very important, study the corrected questions in your returned assignment. At least 20% of those questions can be in your examination. And remember, in your assignment, I will give you clues as how and where you got it wrong and how to rectify it. So study those questions. Then study your IOL study guide or Kindle very well, because all answers will be from this. I will not accept answers from anything else. Your exam paper, your paper will count 120 marks and all questions should be answered. Read your questions with care and make sure you know what is expected with every verb in each question. Find the specific verb in each question that will guide you on how to answer the question. General remarks on the answering of your examination. Your exam paper will consist of the following: a cover page, introduction page, and questions to be answered. The cover page is divided into a left and a right column. The left column will be filled in by your tutor when marking. Please do not fill in here. The right column must be filled in by you. The right column of your cover page has the following headings that you must fill in. Under the heading Student Details, fill in the following information. Next to the heading CIF or student number, you fill in your student number. Then surname, only fill in your surname there. First name and initials, only your first name and your further initials. For example, if your name is Katerina, Johanna Louisa. You only write Katerina J. L. Do not write all the names. Your identity number in the next line. Then the examination center is the place where you are sitting down at that moment, writing your exam. And then very important, your student signature, your signature, your name. It's very important. General instructions at the bottom of your cover page. You will find the general instructions. Please read them through and make sure you understand. Questions should be answered on the paper in the lines underneath each question. I make sure that you have enough lines to answer. But if your handwriting is slightly bigger than usual or something else and you need more place, look at the back of the question paper. I will always attach a clean paper with lines on it. Then answer all questions. Use the mark allocation for each question as a guide for how many facts you should write down. For instance, if the question counts 10 marks, you cannot write 3 A4 pages on that 10 marks, because I will only mark the first 15 lines and draw a line through the rest. I'm not here to dig out the facts into among a lot of writing. It is best to number your facts underneath each other wherever you can, because then you can see how many facts you wrote down. This cannot be done when I ask you to write me an essay. An essay is not a thing that have numbers on it. It is in paragraph forms. Then the next one, write neatly and legibly. I cannot read what you wrote. If I cannot read what you wrote, I cannot allocate marks to you. Please, people, sometimes it looks very, very pretty, but I cannot make out if it's a R or a N or a M. I need to be able to read what you wrote. This paper consists of 8 pages. Every paper will have different pages. Make sure you count the pages and they are all there. No cheating or disturbing will be allowed in the exam room. Please, serious steps will be taken against anyone who cheats or disturbs an examination session. The next page has the examination instructions. No unauthorized material should be taken in or irregularities should occur in the exam room. No asking for or giving any assistance to any fellow students. No cell phones will be allowed inside the room, not even if they are switched off, because you can put a lot of questions on your answers on your cell phone. That will not be allowed to go in. You will not be allowed to leave the room in the first 30 minutes of the examination session. No late arrivals will be allowed to enter the room. And then very important, the question paper or answering paper is the property of IOL. You may not take any of that with you home. It may not be kept, nor parts of it may be removed. It's the sole property of IOL. All answers should be on IOL pages. I will not mark any answer on a page that you took in from a scribbler, because that is irregular. That is unauthorized material. You will be penalized for doing that. No smoking or eating in the examination room. And then the last one is very important. Please sign the checklist. Where the person is that is overlooking the exam, there should be a checklist. Make sure you sign it. The key to answer a very good exam paper is to study your IOL study guide or your Kindle very well. Do not think that my marking can help you pass the exam. I mark according to a memorandum and my work is being moderated. I cannot give you any marks when the correct facts from your study guide is not written down. Only you can help yourself to pass the examination by knowing your work. Read the questions in the paper until you understand what is asked. Don't be too hasty. Lots of students do not understand what is asked in the questions because they didn't read the questions properly. Then, answer in your own words means construct the correct facts from your study guides into your own words. It does not mean make up your own facts and stories to write down. You still need to use the facts from your study guide or Kindle. That's the only thing that will receive a mark. While doing this, while constructing it into your own words, make sure that you still use all the facts. And that you don't use only one fact and then write 10 other irrelevant stuff about the one fact. Make sure you still use everyone. To avoid this, list and number the facts underneath each other whenever possible. Remember, listing cannot be done when you are asked to write an essay. Understanding how to answer a question. Every exam paper is set into 3 levels of difficulty. Level 1 being the easiest, level 3 being the most difficult. These levels are usually indicated by a specific verb that leads the question. In your front part of your study guide, you will find a list of verbs that will expect and what is expected of you when you use this specific verb. You will have to study this list or you will lose the marks when not knowing what to do. Different verbs indicates different levels. And in different levels, you need to do different things. The levels in your exam papers is divided as follows. Level 1, 70%, level 2, 20%, and level 3, 10%. Now, how to use the verbs in your answer. The verbs that is most, I will now handle the verbs that is most commonly used. For level 1, I use list or name. Here you only name or list the content as it is in your study guide. No funny business. Just write down a list or names underneath each other. That's fine. Then define, that means give a definition, or describe, or outline, or explain, or summarize, or identify. Just give the description or the explanation that you studied in your study guide with all of these verbs. That is level 1. Level 1 is completely the facts from your study guide. Now the level 2 verbs, they are discuss, analyze, comment, examine, design, create, investigate, and demonstrate. With these verbs, you must use the facts from your study guide still, but you cannot only give the facts as it is. Some other actions is needed. For example, with discuss, you need to give the description or the facts, and then you must give an argue or a discussion about each fact. For examine means identify the detailed features of something. You give the facts, and then discuss them according to a given direction. And then, very important, drawing a conclusion. When you examine something, you need to give a conclusion. Use the list in your study guide to find out what you will have to do with every verb above. You are also welcome to send me an email and ask you to help you with the different levels of verbs. I will do that. Now level 3, evaluate. Evaluate means determine the value or the worth or the quality or the success of something according to a certain criteria. Compare means to indicate the similarities or the resemblances and the differences of the phenomena regarding to a particular criteria. Then draw a conclusion about the similarities and the differences. And in the conclusion, you should emphasize the similarities. Very often, a table format is used to compare the phenomena. If you are asked to compare your facts to your class, make sure you indicate which of these facts you have found in your class. I need to see the words in my class and then make the comparison. Now I know that you don't all have classes. So what you will have to do is you will have to find yourself a tutor teacher with a grade 1 class where you can go and discuss your teaching stuff and get some input from him or her. Discuss critically. When you see the verb discuss critically, also level 3, you must know that you will have to provide positive facts, negative points, and then draw a conclusion. Determine means use the information or the given, if that means the facts, use the facts to work out the answer. Distinguish, differentiate, contrast, describe the two phenomena or things according to the relevant criteria. Point out clearly the differences between the two sets. You can do that also in table form, which make it very easy. It is very important that you know what to do with all the verbs in the list in your study guide. For not knowing will cause you losing valuable marks. I will now handle some important parts in your study guides that you will need to study for the exams in this year. Please remember, this is not a scope. We don't give scopes. This is just a summary. Use the references given to find the answers. For example, number 1.2.2 means heading number 1.2.2 in your study guide. Students, make sure you only look for the answer to these questions in your study guide. Do not go and look for the answers on the internet, because that facts I will not be marking. The verbs indicated what is expected in each question will be in bold. See your study guide to know what is expected when using the verb. Also try to apply different verbs to the different questions. I indicated the level of verb with each question, but remember, if the verb change, the level will also change, and I may formulate the question with another verb in the examination. It may not be the same as in this presentation. Short questions such as the following can be asked from work throughout your study guide. Fill in the correct answers. Auditory learners learn through Tactical learners learn through Visual learners learn with You just fill in the answers there. When assessing learners in the pre-primary phase, a 3-point assessment scale is used, and a 3 in the 3-point assessment means, then you have to write down what it means. Remember, for a level 3 questions, any of the verbs in the questions can be replaced with any of the following level 3 verbs. Discuss critically, evaluate, compare, and argue about. Your answer will then differ from the level 2 answers in some additional actions must be added to the original facts. Please make sure in your study guide of what you should do when finding these verbs. In Unit 1, I will now give you the important parts in question form. Explain the following terminology. Terminology. This is 11.1 question, sorry. Authenticity, benevolent, convictions, divine, reverence, respect, transcending. With every chapter in your study guide, there are a list of terminology and you must know what they mean. In number 1.2.3 for a level 1 question, describe. For level 2, discuss the overall reasoning for including RME in the junior primary school curriculum in Namibia. Carefully consider the implications of the rationale. Any relevant discussion from the student should receive marks here. Number 1.4.5, learning activity 1.4.1, a level 1 question. Explain the concept cross-curricular teaching. Just explain it. Number 1.5.3, this is level 1 and 3. In RME, as in the teaching of all other subjects in the junior primary phase, learning is based on the standard of the learner-centered education. This approach ensures the best quality of learning when teachers practice 5 specific principles. Name and critically discuss these principles, arriving to a conclusion. This is the principles of learner-centered education. Students should now name, level 1, each and then do a critical discussion on the facts stated, the positive as well as the negative, and arriving to a conclusion. That is level 2. Number 1.5.3.4, level 3, critically discuss the thematic approach or the integrated approach in teaching in your junior primary class in detail by comparing it with an incidental learning opportunities. Your discussion should arrive at a conclusion. Your own conclusion of the students will receive marks. Then, number 1.7.3, level 1, explain the role of religion in the society. The next one, number 1.8.8.2, level 1, define each of the 2 following concepts and 2 marks will be given to each. Values, define principles, and define rules. Unit 2, number 2.5.4, level 2. Discuss the importance of living according to values, laws, and rules, arriving at a conclusion. Remember, marks will be allocated to the conclusion. Number 2.5.6, level 1. Demonstrate the importance of school rules in each classroom and each school. Demonstrate is only level 1. Number 2.5.8.1, also only level 1. Illustrate how parents can assist the school and the teachers in teaching children to obey the school rules. Number 2.6.4, level 1 and 2. Analyze the negative consequences of ignoring values, laws, and rules. Marks will be given for analyzing the facts. The facts is level 1. They will receive half the marks, and the rest of the marks, level 2, will go for analyzing. Learning activity 2.9.2. This is also only level 1. Explain how negative social behavior is related to crime and corruption, and under what circumstances the occurrence hereof is worst. The explanation should include the following headings. Crime and corruption are types of negative social behavior. the effects that negative social behavior has on the society, and corruption is endemic in many societies, but is worst in countries where what happens? Number 2.9.3, level 1. The reason for negative social behavior may have 3 groups of causes. In table form, provide the names of these 3 groups and provide each group with the causes or the symptoms that may be a reason for negative behavior. The 3 groups are biological, psychological, and sociological. Then that is the names of the 3 groups. And underneath each group in this table, you will give reasons for negative social behavior and the cause or the symptoms that may be the reason for the negative behavior. Unit 3, number 3.1.4.2, level 1, explain how the following negative feelings can have a positive outcome in life. Sadness, despair, anger, fear, and embarrassment. Please remember here, students, I do not ask you to describe sadness. I ask you to explain how sadness can be positive for your life, or despair can be positive for your life. In the previous exams, students only described sadness, and I couldn't give any marks because they didn't read the question. Number 3.2.5, level 1. Firstly, name and then explain the 4 dimensions of EI according to Salovey and Meyer model. Explain each of the following: perceiving emotions, reasoning with emotions, understanding emotions, managing emotions. Number 3.4.4.1, level 1. Describe the following leadership styles identified by Daniel Goldberg. The visionary leader, the affiliative leader, and the pace-setting leader. Just describe their leadership styles. Learning activity 3.5.1, level 1 and 2. Problem solving is a controlled process. There are specific steps to follow as a guideline to problem solving. Name these steps. Level 1. Name each of them. Discuss the action of each and invent a relevant question that could be asked as conclusion for your discussion of each. So invent means you need to set up your own relevant question that could be asked as conclusion for your discussion of each. But you can also find these questions in your study guide. Define the problem, goal setting. Consider all the possibilities and practicality of each course of action, brainstorming. Consider the consequences. Decide consciously on your course of action, and then implementation, and then evaluate the process. Learning activity 3.5.2. Emotions are instinctive. A person cannot be taught to fear something or to be happy. It is the instinctive reaction to an action. Emotion has 3 components. Name these 3 components and then give an explanation to each. Psychological changes, behavior changes, and personal emotional encounter. Number 3.7.3, level 2. Discuss the developing of emotional intelligence during infancy. Marks will be allocated for the discussion of each fact. Unit 4, number 4.1.3, level 2, discuss what is understood under the term nutrition. Remember, this is now level 2 because the verb is discuss. If I want to change it to level 1, I can just say describe, then it's a level 1 question. Number 4.1.4, level 1, name 5 food groups that you have to consume every day. Name, level 1. Elaborate on the saying eat to live. That means tell us more about that. Describe how to maintain a healthy, careful and moderate drinking habits. And apart from all the above, list the basic principles to keep in mind when eating healthy. Number 4.1.4, level 1. Name and describe the basic principles to keep in mind when choosing a healthy diet. For instance, a variety, eat moderately, sized portions, eat slowly, do not skip meals, try to limit saturated fatty acids, reduce the intake of sugar, reduce the intake of salt, reduce the use of coffee and alcohol, and drink carefully and moderately. Eat to live. Number 4.3.3, level 1, outline how you will manage your personal finances by explaining how you will work out a successful, workable plan of action. Any of the following plus elaboration of the points. Any of the facts plus the elaboration of the points made will receive marks. Number 4.3.6, level 3, in table form, compare the advantages to the disadvantages of financial loans. Any other relevant comparison by the student should be marked correctly, other than that was in the study guide. Make the table with the one heading advantages of loans and the next heading disadvantages of loans, and then just list it. Number 4.11.4, level 2, the changes that occur when a baby enters a family can be wonderful. Briefly discuss the positive effects that this can have on a family. Number 4.5.3, level 1 and 2, discuss why managing your stress is in the best interest of yourself and all people you come in contact with. The student's valid discussion input should also be considered, but only after the facts were discussed. So you take the facts from the study guide, you write them down, you discuss them, and then you can also write down a valid discussion input, and that will receive marks. Number 4.8.6.2, people drink alcohol and take drugs for several reasons. Name and describe these reasons found with young children. 1 mark for naming and 1 mark for describing the reason. Unit 5. Any of the topics of the syllabus can be asked in the following ways. You need to be able to implement this. This is, you get your syllabus with a number of topics that should be taught in the RME lesson. I am now going to tell you how it will be asked, but I can change the topic to another topic, and you will also must be able to answer it in this way. When presenting an RME lesson, a certain basic competencies should be met and certain learning teaching activities should take place, which requires appropriate resources and practical materials. Remember, this is an RME lesson, not an environmental studies lesson. The learning activities should be adjusted to RME. In table form, name and discuss 4 activities and the matching practical materials that you will use when presenting the theme myself during a RME lesson in your class. Remember that. Students, overall, just make that myself a environmental studies lesson with nothing of RME in it. In the third column, show the basic competencies that are applicable. So, place the activity, the matching material or resource, and the basic competency next to each other, giving each the same number. So you make a table with 3 columns. The table is in your exam paper. You just, under the heading activities, you think out activities for this lesson. Under the heading materials, what materials will you use for this specific activity? And under basic competencies, what basic competency will this activity help with? Number 5.3.2, also level 1 and 2, in the RME theme, my family, using the topic social and emotional development. Number 1, list the basic competencies to be mastered. And in table form, relate the activities that the learner will participate in, to the suggested resource and material that will be used. You relate the activity to the resource. So the table will be there, 2 columns. The first column, activity, and the second column, materials or resources. Make sure that the resource go with a specific activity. Or, also number 5.7.2, level 1 and 2, activities presented in the pre-primary phase during RME will mostly be either theme or basic competency related. In table form, list 5 suggested activities for the theme animals, or beliefs, or norms and values. And in the adjacent column, demonstrate whether each activity is theme or basic competency related, or whether it is related to both. Another way that I can ask these questions. You are planning an RME lesson under the theme water. Water is the environmental studies theme, and should teach specific competencies through certain learning and teaching activities, and use appropriate resources and practical materials. Number 1, name the basic competencies that should be mastered. That is the basic competencies for an RME level lesson. In table form, plan 7 activities that your learners will participate in. This should include at least 3 stories from the Bible where water plays a significant role. In the adjacent column, providing each with the appropriate resource or material that will be used. Remember, the activity and the material or resource should be next to each other. Unit 6, number 6.1.2 and 6.1.3, level 1 and 2, you are planning an RME lesson under the topic belonging, and should teach specific competencies through certain learning and teaching activities. Use the appropriate resources and practical material. Again, in table form, plan your own lesson with activities that your learners will participate in. This should include at least 4 stories from the Bible. Remember, the lesson will not go over one day. It will go for the week where the theme is being taught. So, at least 4 stories from the Bible where caring plays a significant role. And then again, in the adjacent column, provide each activity with appropriate resource or material that will be used. You may use examples from your study guide, but plan your own flow of the lesson. Don't use the lesson as is in the study guide. Plan your own flow. See the table in 5.3.2. Number 6.10.3, level 1 and 2. Explain the purpose of continuous assessment. Just explain it. Facts are in your study guide. Number 6.10.4.3, level 1. In junior primary grades, detailed guidelines on the process of recording continuous assessment can be found in the Junior Primary National Policy Guide. Describe this specific process of recording the continuous assessment. There is a very specific process. Find it and describe that. Number 6.10.5, level 1. When using the 6-point grading scale, competency descriptions are allocated to each grade. Clarify the full meaning of each description. The grade is A. The competency description is achieve competencies exceptionally well. And then, what does it mean to achieve the competencies exceptionally well? There you must clarify that description. To the student, if you failed the previous exam, make sure that you obtain a report on what you did wrong from the IOL officers, or you can ask it from me. Remember, this is a general report on all students. I cannot write reports for 1,000 students. Please use the references provided with the questions above to find the answers and then study them for your examination. If you have a question you would like to ask me, it is best to email it to me at vanheerdenfam@gmail.com. Then I will give you a well-constructed answer. You can also mail and ask me for a summary about a month before your examination, not closer to the examination. Please give yourself a month to study the summary. When emailing me, please name your course code, your subject code, RMLS, as I am the tutor in different courses. Due to poor cell phone reception, phoning me might not have the same positive result as an email. But when you must phone me, please adhere to the following calling times. Mondays to Thursdays, 9 in the morning to 8 at evening. Fridays, 9 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. No calls will be answered during weekends, especially on Sundays. If you want to ask something over the weekend, send an email and I will answer it Monday morning first thing. Also, please note that the tutors do not work in the IOL office. We are part-time workers and cannot help you with any administrative problems. I can only help you with problems concerning your subject content, and that I will do gladly. I wish you the best of luck for your examination. Thank you.